All right, guys, welcome to the Ravit Show. Very, very happy to have my next guest today. First of all, happy Diwali and a happy New Year to everyone. I just wanted to wish you guys a very safe Diwali and a great New Year ahead. Okay, without any other further ado, my today's guest is Mateusz Klimek. He is the founder of Redata. Redata is an open source startup in the data quality space. It does have to do a lot around the data quality. Matthews is a software engineer turned data engineer, working with data for the last 5 years as an individual engineer and manager of data engineering and data science teams. He has a lot of experience around data engineering. So, guys, you can definitely ask a lot of questions to Matt, and I'm sure he'll be happy to answer. Today, we will discuss about his journey, open source data tools, data quality, and much more. So, as I mentioned, we'll be talking a lot around data quality, and you have a chance also to win a free hour of consulting regarding current company data stack. What you need to do is just type redata. I can already see Aditi putting in redata, Bhana Ramtak putting in redata. So yes, definitely go ahead and mention hashtag redata in the chat section, and it's already got 4 entries. So what we'll be doing is announcing one winner who has an opportunity to have 1 hour of free consultancy with Matthews and team. So what you need to do is just type hashtag redata in the chat, and by end of the show, definitely stick together and we'll announce the winners. But it's time. Without any further ado, let's have our guest on here. Hey, Matthews. I was
Hello.
just first of all, very welcome. A happy Diwali and a happy New Year to you. And I was just letting folks know about today's session about
Mhm.
redata and about how we'll be discussing about your journey about the quality of data and a lot of things other than that too. So first of all, obviously would love to have your introduction for the audience so they know you much better, though I have given an introduction which is obviously a very short one, but would love to hear a much more descriptive one from your end.
Okay, sure. Yeah, definitely happy to do it. So I'm like by background definitely an engineer. I worked with actually on the first job I worked on a web platform. Codility is actually
Mm-hmm.
currently quite no developer testing tool. So I started as a web developer. During my studies, actually, I was also interested in algorithms, and I'm kind of a competitive programmer. So that's one thing. But I think in the last 5 years, I started working with data. So I switched to from working on the web pages to working on data, and really liked it. Like this was something I really enjoyed when moved it to it. The basically just difference of the problems which you have when you're working as an engineer or comparing to when you work as data engineer was something which fits me well, I think. So yeah, I worked.
Nice.
Yeah. So I work actually 4 years like in the startup. I was managing a data engineering data scientist team there, but during the like last year at the end of it, I decided that it's time to start my own thing. And actually I always used a lot of open source, so I started open source solution which is Redata now.
Sorry, I was on mute. I was just saying this was fantastic and quite a journey, definitely, Matt. And in terms of coming from a background from software engineering to now data engineering, and data engineering being the one of the most hot positions
Mhm.
today in the data science field. So, would love to actually also know a little about your thoughts. How has data engineering suddenly, not suddenly though, since last few years, it's been a hot position in the data science field. So what are your thoughts behind it? Just in general, wanted to know a little about it.
Yeah, so data engineering in like I think it developed from something which was done mostly in the big companies like
Mm,
Google and Apple, and like those companies do data engineering and big data for probably last 15 years
mm,
or more. And but suddenly like it started to be also possible for smaller or maybe not that advanced companies to do data engineering and to actually work with data on scale. And I
yeah.
think this is what's causing this like mass adoption and basically this hotness
Mm.
in this space is that now every company, it's kind of like basically every company can have a software engineering team and work like have a web page like work on that, but now basically every company have a data, and they can actually work with it and they can improve their services or products with it also. So
Wow,
yeah,
this is quite
that's
interesting and a great explanation, definitely, because I was eager to learn more about data engineering being suddenly such a hot topic or such a hot position. But definitely it makes sense when the giants kind of jump in, and then the obviously when it's about the tech giants coming in that and demanding for data engineers, it has to go up to another level. So it does make a lot of sense. Also, very eager to learn about how was the switch from software engineering to data engineering for you. Was it completely something out of the place, or was it kind of is related in it was just upskilling yourself and now you can call yourself data engineer? How did that happen?
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, I think definitely it's not that something one is better than another. These are just different
Yeah,
fields of
true.
engineering, and I think this is also useful to look at it like that. That as a different field, like data engineering is a subset of engineering. It's just different tools you use to work. And like for me, like the switch was I liked it like most likely because I'm really into algorithms and actually making stuff work and work fast. And this was something which is like already done in like when you work on the web pages. Like you don't maybe often need to have that challenges that often. But when you start working with big data, it's
Mm,
suddenly it's not easy to make it work. Uh, on the start, and you can optimize things, and you have very interesting problems there, and that's why I really like the switch. Definitely I was a bit surprised about because in engineering we have a lot of tools for different things, and actually in data when
exactly.
it seems that there is a lot of tools, but still there is not that many and there wasn't, and currently they're just starting practices around how to write proper data pipelines. So this was a bit kind of unexpected, because from engineering background I know that when you write a, let's say, web service, you use Django as a base, and here you have tools to work with data, but you don't really know how to structure a project and so on. So this was a bit a change which was not expected. It seemed like basically data is a little bit behind in this engineering practices than, for example, web development. And yeah, also like the one things which you can struggle with data is that it's not always possible to see the output of your thing. So
Mm-hmm.
the data is produced, and it's usually passed to somebody else, but it's not
True.
like a web page when you know that if it's working or not. It may be wrong and you may know it. And this was a bit stressful for in this job. So it was like one of the downside, I would say. But yeah, I mean I still very liked it. So this was one of the downside which I hope to actually fix. So yeah.
Wow. No, I think definitely that's a very fantastic answer from your end, Matt. And thanks for that answer. It kind of gives me an understanding how curious you must be to learn more about data engineering. And I liked it when you said not like one is better than another, because it has equal opportunities. It has equal specialities. Software engineering has its own good specialities, and data engineering have their own great stuff that you can do. So thanks for that answer, Matthew. Obviously, we do have a few questions and a few folks joining us. I can, yes, definitely see Manisha joining us, Christine joining us from Chicago. And she's excited about the discussion. Thanks, Christine, for joining us. And for those who are joining us just right now, just wanted to give you a heads up that we are. Matthews has been kind, and he's actually offered 1 hour of free consultancy. So you, what you just need to do is type in hashtag redata in the chat section, and by end of the show we'll be doing a raffle. We already have 9 folks who are running for the 1 hour consultancy, so excited about that. Okay, let's also take a few questions which have just come in. One is from Dara. Okay, and Dara has a little different question. Obviously, please guide me, how can I learn data science myself, because my background is in accounts. So yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's definitely interesting question. So, like, definitely a good thing about the data is that there are resources online when you can
Yeah,
like join and actually join the communities. There are
true.
lot of interesting Slack communities to join, and a lot of resources available. So that's one thing. I think accountant is quite a good background to start with when actually doing data science. Uh, I would most likely start with SQL as a thing which you actually start writing some code, processing the data, and then you can move to data science, which usually requires Python. Uh, Not necessarily. You can also do many interesting things with SQL, which is also possible. So yeah, I would
Yeah,
probably say that.
I think yes, definitely great answer there, Matthews, because there are a lot of resources which are available for data science to uh, break into data science basically. So go out there and maybe join some Slack channels. There are definitely experts, instructors who do free giveaways for their courses too. So you can
Oh
start
yeah,
somewhere
nice.
there, and SQL is definitely one great place to start from. So. I hope that answers for Dara. Also, another interesting question coming here from Aditi, and she wants to know, how is a data engineer different from a data scientist? There has been a lot of talking around it,
Yeah.
not only on LinkedIn, but all the social media channels, news reports everywhere. How do you put it, Matthews?
Yeah, so like probably yeah, it may very depend. I had a team which has both data engineers and data scientists. Sometimes they were actually doing the same job, which
Mm,
is like similar. So of course, on some level, this can be just a difference of the name, but most
mm,
likely data engineers are more like engineers. So they work with pipelines. They don't do so much experimentation, but they create working production ready pipelines to actually process the data. And in data science, you will quite often do more of a experimentation job. When you try something, you want to try how the model works and check the results. So I think the main difference is this experimentation part when you actually do it more in as a data scientist.
Okay, that definitely makes a lot of sense there. Thanks, Matthews. Thanks for that question, Aditi. I know there are two questions there as well by Mayoba and Karthik. But before taking them, obviously, I wanted to move forward and ask you about what are some of the practices from software engineering which data teams should actually adopt. So yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting question. So yeah, definitely the first thing, which is like very important, is that version control. Like
Mm,
all engineering teams use version control to know like to have some repository of code which they like together maintain. And in data, especially data analytics, it wasn't always like that. And you can have many basically without it, it's very hard to make the systems work properly. You don't have proper knowledge sharing between different people in the team even. So that would be probably the first practice I would imagine adopting. Like the second one, definitely also testing. So as you said, like data pipelines or data teams are actually engineering teams. At least I like consider them that. So I think code and data should be tested, and there are tools. We are actually one of the tools which is helping with that to
Yeah.
test your data and to test your code that it works properly as you expect it to be working. Data is actually even more trickier, I would say, than for example web development, because there's so many possible cases you can get in your data. There's some balance in between, like that you cannot test always every possible case, but definitely there's lots which can be tested. Like the third thing, I think, like in general in engineering, you try not to write code when you don't have to do it. So you basically try to write as little code as possible, like in most of the cases. And I think this practice actually didn't yet went that well, like into the data space, because actually there's uh, still like the ecosystem. Actually, myself work in the dbt ecosystem, which is actually great and helps with that, but yeah, like it's still early stages to actually reduce the code which is written apart from used from somebody else. So in engineering space, you usually use libraries to do almost everything for you, and you don't need to write it yourself. And I think this is interesting practice to adopt from those teams to actually also have libraries for things you don't need to write.
Right.
And yeah, so that's one thing. And probably last, also very important, is monitoring your data. This is
Exactly.
kind of similar to testing, but you don't always know what to test, because there are some you don't know what you'll receive, for example, from the data from clients and so on, and you need to have a tool which helps you discover this kind of unknown, which you don't expect.
Hmm.
So the engineering teams definitely also do that. There are big companies helping them do that, and we think also in the data space this is needed.
I think that's a very descriptive answer and a very helpful one. So thanks for that, Matthews. Okay, moving on. Also, would want to know what are the benefits of open source data tools, because yours is one open source stuff and you like it. So would love
Yeah,
to know more
definitely.
about it.
Yeah, so yeah, that's a question. So definitely, like the first thing you think about open source is that it's free. Yeah, so like it's kind of obvious benefit. Like people like
Exactly.
free stuff, but it's definitely more than that. So apart from being free, it means that everybody who wants to use it can use it without having like some artificial borders in that. So they don't need to ask for permission their boss about it or somebody else in the company. They just can try it themselves and see how it works for them.
Hmm.
So it's very easy to experiment this way. You can also, like, if you like, a lot of these tools, like how they develop is actually developed by people mentioning things they would like to have in their like how they use the tools, and actually they're adding those suggestions, or people are adding suggestions themselves. So this is
Mm-hmm.
really a nice thing, that like this development, when you actually can add things to what you are using, you can improve it yourself. You also don't need to check
Right.
with support of the company. Even if there is a company behind the open source tool, you can do it. You can still take the code and do whatever you want with it,
Hmm.
add things to it, and use it. And we
True.
were like in the previous company definitely doing that to some of the tools we are using, and without it, it will probably be a blocker to actually use them.
Okay, that's very interesting. Okay, let's take a few questions from the audience. Let's go back to Moyova's questions and question. He is asking about what can I do with patients' data to make clinical care worthwhile? Okay.
Patient. That's interesting questions.
Yeah, how do you put it, Mayo? I don't know, but can you share, shed some more light on what do you want to do with it? Because it's definitely something which is important when you say patient's data, but
Yeah, yeah,
would wait
definitely.
for you to clarify more on the question. So definitely, I'm sure Matthews would be able to help you in some direction.
Yeah, I guess, yeah, like definitely it's critical for especially this kind of data as patients data to have it in high quality, and errors there can be really basically there can be in some cases deadly. So
Mm.
so definitely uh, important to look for quality data quality there. But yeah, definitely happy to answer more or learn more
Yeah.
about the background. So yeah.
Yeah, it makes sense. So, Maya, feel free to let us know what type of things are you working based on appointment with the doctor. Okay, so he did clarify that he wants to. What can I do with patients' data to make clinical trial care a worthwhile based on appointment with the doctor? Okay, so it's more on the adjoining side where he's saying that with the data of the patients, how can he actually put it together with the with an appointment with the doctor? Very interesting.
How to have you can use it to have an appointment with the doctor. I mean, or to actually use it for like healthcare.
I think it's more on the healthcare side, to be honest. Yes.
Yeah, I think that there are a couple interesting startups in this space, probably like letting you use the healthcare data to your advantage in terms of
Hmm.
your health advantage.
Yeah.
This is definitely interesting space, uh, and I think, yeah, like like using them can have like real benefits
Yeah.
to your life in some cases.
Yeah, exactly. Makes a lot of sense. Okay. Moving on. Matthews, obviously, there was, since we were talking a lot around data engineering, Karthik is asking, I have seen many reuse models in ML. How important is calculus, data science, math?
Yeah, yeah, like that's the like truth about basically working with models, is that it shouldn't be actually hard to train models. You shouldn't need to actually do calculus or math to to train to train models. You can use it as a software, so you don't need to know like exactly internals how they work.
Mm-hmm.
Those are libraries which can help you like to actually solve the problem. So like this is definitely helpful to get most of the models to improve them, uh, to make them like work best. But you don't need this to start. You don't need it to get a value from them. So you can use them as they are
Okay.
in some cases.
Makes sense. Also, we were talking around data. So there's a very interesting question from Manisha. Data is everywhere. How do you suggest we focus on good data and make the most out of it? Very interesting.
Yeah, that's very interesting questions. So yeah, definitely companies can gather now with the existing tools can gather a lot of data, and it's easy to gather that. Probably it's important to focus what you actually need from this data, like on the business perspective
Hmm.
for the company. Yeah, so you need to have some business goals to actually know like what do you expect and what do you want to achieve with the data. Maybe you want to have like better conversion rate, or want to know that people are staying or they are happy, and so on. So basically I think you need to choose the data you want to work with depending on the business case you want to actually it to resolve. I think you are muted.
Huh. So sorry. It's
No
just
worries.
Friday thing, I feel. But definitely, that was a good answer to a great question. Thanks, Manisha. Okay, moving on. Matthews, want to know more about why do you think companies and organization struggle with data quality? What's the reason? Why does that happen?
Sure. So yeah, there are probably at least couple things. The first one is actually like from the previous question. You usually work with raw data, and working with raw data means working with data which you don't necessarily know how it's look like what's there. So you need to do an investigation, like really look into like what's there, see it yourself. If there is no like quite often there's no API to actually check the data you want to use, and also you don't have real control if this data will stay as it is, so stay in the same format for the future. Most likely not. Most likely it will change at some point, and at this point you might actually not be ready to this change because your code usually works with one data and not necessarily or may
Mhm.
not work with other. And this is, I think, often happening, that basically pipelines and code break because they are not expecting the changes and they go unnoticed, and they may cause really severe problem. They may cause smaller problems like just may like need to recompute
Mhm.
everything, but it can also be like very large problems in terms of getting the data back and sending them to customers. So that's one thing. Like the other thing which I think is problematic is the communication. So data teams, usually data scientists, data engineers, they
Mhm.
often work with kind of different departments or a different side of the company than, for example, product teams, which actually develop the product which produces the data. And like, of course, product also evolve quite quickly, and like this evolution usually cause the data produced by these products to be a little bit different. And it's not always communicated to the data teams, and that something changed because actually those are people from separate parts of the company. They may not talk to each other, and it's often happening that they don't talk. So definitely obvious solution is like definitely communication on some level can solve this problem. So like there are practices like even more expensive practices, like every product team can have a data engineer which is actually responsible for making sure that the data produced by this team is proper. It's like quite expensive practice actually, but it's used by big companies, some of the big companies. But this is the like communication is definitely one of the problems between different teams in the different like teams in the company.
Yeah.
So that is it. Like there are more than that. So what I said on the start is that like we should use reuse tools as much as possible. So
Mm.
we have tools to actually process the data. So like, for example, Snowflake, for example, Spark, and the like big
Yep.
companies help us process the data. But those tools still don't say to you how to exactly do it, like how to write the code which will be doing that. So this is important to actually have a framework, and actually we work in DBT ecosystem, which is a framework for SQL. In this case, they actually write proper data pipelines, which like not learning yourself how to write it, but actually use some of the existing learnings from people who already tried it many times to follow these practices in the code.
I think yes, definitely. It's very insightful. Yep.
Yeah.
Matthews, go on.
And yeah, also one thing for data specifically is like you don't know when it's wrong. You may not know like by default. So
Mm-hmm.
because data is not like a web page which shows your errors. It can be
True.
like a diagram, but but it's always also then if it's wrong, you don't know if it's like the data is wrong or actually your intuition is completely wrong about what you think this data diagram
Mhm.
would look like. Yeah, because it's not necessarily. Yeah, so this is also a quite challenging thing to actually figure it out. Of course, this is one of the things free data is helping with, actually knowing that your pipeline may not be working as you expected. But yeah, that's definitely one of the reasons.
I think it's super insightful in terms of why companies are actually struggling with data quality, and these are definitely great reasons. And obviously, you mentioned about communication also being one of them, which is more on the soft skill side, but it is one of the most important thing when conveying to each other in the team as well. It plays a very important role. I can actually see a few questions in the audience, and obviously George is here. So hey George, welcome. I know for a fact George is a great leader in the space of data governance. If people want to actually learn around data governance, he's the guy you need to follow. He shares some amazing and fantastic videos, and has a great channel, Lights on Data. He had a question around which is super interesting. So George is asking, what are your thoughts on open data? Should companies join this moment?
Open data. Uh, well, like open data, if you mean by basically open source tools for processing data, because actually, yeah, I'm checking.
Yeah,
That's very interesting because it's actually it's interesting that when you are working with open source and somebody's saying that there's the movement called open data, and you
yeah.
actually first think about it, like actually they didn't know about it. So basically, like what I said about open source, that open source can definitely improve how you work with data. There are a lot of pieces to it. That open source usually works, I would say, usually develops a bit later than actually commercial software, because it's actually a bit harder to develop it. You usually don't have that much resources on it, and you take mostly feedback from users. But
Mm.
I think like the same from as we see from engineering, usually uh, in engineering the most popular solutions for working with problems are open source. And I believe the same will be true in data space, when most of the solutions will be open source. So, yeah.
No, yeah, it does make sense. Also, Matthews, there was an interesting question from Christine. Have you ever designed a hybrid system that used both open source data tools and blockchain technology? For example, a data warehouse that uses blockchain technology could protect some of the data, while open source data tools could make other parts of the data warehouse more accessible. Interesting.
Yeah, definitely interesting. I mean, I'm not in the blockchain space, maybe
Yeah.
apart from buying crypto from time to time, like specifically, yeah. So that's one thing. Uh,
Yeah, I think it's more on the side where I think the game of the blockchain data is completely different from the data which we are talking here. But that was definitely more on the side where you talk about crypto. So
yeah, like the blockchain is definitely interesting technology because it's also allows to do this things which and this is partly similar to open source, that you don't need to rely on anybody. Yeah, like
mm,
you have just code which you know that that works, and you can do whatever you want with it. So definitely there are like some kind of similar ideas to, like, also of course blockchain technology is open source, everything there, so because it needs to be,
yeah.
but yeah, definitely interesting.
Makes sense. Okay, Matthews, I just wanted to give a reminder for those who are attending right now. And if you haven't participated in our giveaway that has 1 hour of free consultancy for by obviously Matthew and team, so you can actually mention hashtag redata in the comment section, and we'll be announcing the winners by end of the show. It's we already have almost 12 folks in there, so looking forward to see who the winner would be. But obviously I want to move forward in terms of knowing more about your company, Matthews. I know for a fact that you have a GitHub repository which I would love to share it with our audience, but please feel free to shed some more lights on Redata. How did it start, and more around that journey?
Sure. Yeah. So basically, company started from like my pain, which I like already mentioned, that you don't really know if your pipelines are working or not.
Yeah.
So you usually want to have a tool to solve this problem. And there is not really like open source solutions to that. So I decided that, and like at the previous company, for monitoring we used mostly open source solutions. So decided that definitely it's a place which needs attention.
Mm,
I started so the journey started with creating basically GitHub repository and writing first version. After a couple months, I actually decided to. I actually find that first users, and they worked with me a bit on how to use free data. But after a couple months, I actually still did this things which you do in a startup. It's called pivot.
mm-hmm.
It wasn't a hard one, but mostly on the infrastructure side one. So I noticed that there is the growing space when people want to have a framework to work with data, and this is currently
True.
DBT. When like currently data analysts, but also now data engineers are also starting to use it. Want to have some framework to work with data to actually have a structure for it
Mm.
and help to solve common problems which they happen. So I decided that if I want to solve this problem of monitoring and actually making sure the data quality is correct, I need to meet the users when they are in terms of their technology, and write Redata as a dbt package and like other Python package which you can actually install and use in a dbt ecosystem. And they definitely make it clicked in terms of people being happy with using Redata. We currently have like I work with users on adding new features and so on. So this is, I think this is going great.
Amazing.
And yeah, so that's, I think that was the part of the journey.
Wow, that is fantastic. And what about the future plans? What's next that's coming for Redata? Me and definitely the audience are curious to learn more about it.
Yeah, sure. So currently we are open source company, which means that everything we do is open source, and we
Hmm.
definitely want to have it as a like the base core. Uh, we also will be like we want to tackle data quality in many places. So not just on a monitoring level when you learn about your problems in the data, what appeared and what happened there, but also on the level when we help people clean the data and actually make use of the data. So do proper testing of the data. So we want to kind of integrate, I would say, on many different points with the users to help them with the data quality.
Hmm.
We currently also offer consulting to develop a data stack in the companies. So that's another kind of way of monetizing open source. When
Right.
you basically like open source, of course, needs to have needs to have some stable source of income. This is ours, and at some point we think about launching a cloud version, which will also help with monitoring the data when you don't need to, when some people still wants to have everything hosted and have everything so that they don't need to code that much to actually get it working. So we'll be trying to meet those needs as well.
Wow, this is great. I think a great step to the future, and you have a great set of obviously the details that you look at the problems of the customers, and you are actually wanting to be the problem solver for them. So, looking forward to the journey for Redata. Definitely, Matthews. Super excited to learn more about it, and to for our audience, obviously there's one question that we'll take from the audience that I can see is super interesting, but before that,
Mhm.
why not go and announce our winner for today, because the audience has been kind enough and there are a few folks who have come up for come up and actually participated in our giveaway, and we have good 12 entries. So let's why not let's do the raffle here.
Yeah.
And this is some fancy part that you might like, so it's very much automated. All the entries from YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, those who have mentioned redata hashtag redata and have spelled it correctly, just to be honest. Okay, Daksh Kinvasra is the winner. We'll reach out to Daksh, and he has an opportunity to sit with the Redata team and have 1 hour of consultancy. If you are a student, definitely you have a chance to learn more about data too. So feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn, and I'll get the ball rolling for you guys. All right, thank you. That's for our winner. Thank you very much. Okay, quickly taking this question and then jumping on the last question, Matthews. Very
Sure, sure.
interesting question from Manisha. How different do you see data in the last 5 years and today? So about the past and today, how does it look like?
Okay, yeah. Yeah, so what I said, like 5 years is probably when people were still figuring out how to work with data. And like it wasn't that popular. The jobs for data engineers were starting to show up. Like there were like probably already a lot of them, but it wasn't that hot. Not every company was thinking about using the data. And I think now it seems that, and I think it's basically like competitive advantage which you can have as a company to actually use the data to your like to learn from your users and to provide them better service. So now every company is thinking about it, but also of course the space is changing. So the space in terms of engineering, which I actually know most about, is changing, is developing. So it's basically maturing. And when 5 years ago, like you actually needed to start your own thing when you wanted to write the data pipeline. Now you can use some of the tools to write it. So you can use dbt, you can use airflow, and you can
Hmm.
use redata, and definitely other tools to actually write the pipeline and not have to write that much code. So this is definitely developing. Yeah, so I would say that's definitely one important
Awesome.
difference.
This is amazing. Great answer, Matthews. And just for our audience, if they want to reach out to you, which is the best place for them to catch up with you, Matthews?
Yeah, probably our Slack. So
Okay.
so we have a Slack for for us. Oh, yeah, Cesare, I think
Yes,
said the name.
Cesare has mentioned the link. So, folks who wish to join the Slack channel, you guys can actually sign up and reach out to Cesare. He's the community head there. You can also reach out to Matthews. He's the founder at Redata, and have additional questions for them. And also feel free to contribute for their open source GitHub, which Cesare has mentioned, and I have also shared a link. But this was fantastic session, Matthews. I enjoyed it thoroughly, and
Yeah,
can't
me
wait
too.
to obviously have that 2.0 version with you. And there are more developments at Redata, and we'll have a lot more topics to talk around. So looking forward to that one.
Yeah, Looking forward to.
Awesome, Matthews. Thanks to our audience for joining us today and asking such amazing questions. It was one great time with Matthews. Happy Friday and have an amazing weekend ahead, guys. Thank you very much.
Yeah.